Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Ohio Guys here. I'm Christian Ocampo, and today I'm being joined by Marissa Lenti. How are you, Marissa?
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us for this interview. We're excited to ask you some of these questions.
Oh yeah.
First of all, what is it like working in the industry today?
Well, the voice acting industry has really become super duper fast paced nowadays. So it's very much like, everything's got to be done like yesterday, So you're constantly auditioning, constantly going here and there, recording stuff, constantly getting on planes and flying off to wherever. It's quite fast-paced, but it's fun. It's fun that stuff is constantly happening, constantly moving, constantly getting done. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So, during your time in the voice acting scene, any favorite shows you have worked on?
Definitely Nambika is my favorite. It is just such a funny show, and I love my character. I voice a character on there named Momoko, and another one named Ku, who is a cat. So you can imagine it was a lot of fun. And my director, Aaron Dismuke, was absolutely fantastic. So it was just a lot of fun, and I think that the final product is really good. If anyone hasn't seen Nambika, it's a comedy, and it's really, really funny. I rewatch it all the time, so definitely Nambika, yeah.
All right. Another question we like to ask you: what was it like working on Gamers?
Gamers, yeah! Gamers was my technically first main role. Chiaki Hoshinomori is part of the main cast, and it was my first time getting to do that, so it was really, really special to me. And Kristen McGuire was the director on that, and she kind of steered me in a very different direction from what's going on in the J, which was interesting. So I got to experiment with that, and she sounds a lot like my natural voice, and I came in going, okay, what are we doing? And she's like, you. Sound like you. And just have fun with it. Focus more on the acting. And I'm like, oh, okay. So Gamers was very much about, like, funny deliveries, great acting, like, the emotional moments had to hit really hard. She wanted everyone to kind of sound real and grounded, and that's why, I think she said this before, but, like, almost everyone in the cast is actually a gamer. So she was like, you're a gamer, you know gamer stuff, you'll be able to contribute to the jokes, and, it'll feel more natural coming out of your mouth rather than someone who doesn't know anything about games, trying to pretend to know. Chiaki says things like, oh, it really got me aggroed, and I can imagine that would be confusing if you've never played any games. So yeah, that one has a really special place in my heart.
It's a very good, very interesting show. Love it.
Oh yeah, me too.
Another show, since you really mentioned this one, was it like working on Nanabaka?
Nambika! Nambika was awesome. That's when I auditioned for Momoko when just episode 1 was out in Japan, because it was a simuldub, so we were going to start with episode 1 before episode 2 even came out. And right before episode 1's recordings were supposed to start, episode 2 dropped. And in episode 2, my character Momoko, it's revealed that her deep voice is fake, and that she actually has a super high-pitched voice. Whenever she's thinking or when she's alone, she talks in like this high-pitched voice. And in a panic, I texted Aaron Dismuke, who is the director, and I was like, oh my god, you had everyone audition just doing the low voice, and now, what are you going to do? She's got this high voice, like, I can audition right away. If you need me to, just let me know. And he was like, haha, well, he's like, you're already in the show, so, we'll just figure it out. And I was like, oh. So the first time going into record Momoko, episode 1 obviously was just the low voice, but episode 2, we got to the high voice, and he was like, what do you got for me? And my Momoko voice, it's all the way up here, and it's, oh, he's so dreamy. So, like, in order to make that voice happen, I kind of pinch my throat together a little bit so that less air is traveling through my windpipe. because the more air that goes through, the deeper your voice is. That's why bigger people usually have lower voices, like people who are really wide set, and then people who are really petite usually have higher voices. So you can cheat it that way. You can't really make your voice lower too much, but you can make it a lot higher with that trick. So I had that trick in my back pocket, and he was like, oh yeah, that'll work. And then I also remember episode 4, when Ku showed up, was my other character. He's a cat. He doesn't talk or anything. He's just a regular cat. I was like, Aaron, you gotta believe me. I'm really good at animal noises. You gotta let me do it. You gotta let me do it. And he's like, okay, geez. But he didn't tell me that week if he was gonna let me do it or not. And the next week, I came into the studio, and Damon Mills, who plays Jugo, the lead, came up to me and was like, hey, you excited to be that cat? And I was like, oh, I'm the cat! And Aaron walks around the corner and goes, well, don't tell her! So yeah, a lot of laughs working on Nanbaka, that's for sure.
Another question, and this one is a new show that just recently got announced. What's like on Chio's School Road?
Yeah, Chio's School Road. That's one I'm currently working on. I've only recorded a couple episodes because my character, Madoka, comes in sort of in the middle of the show. I mean, she's like, was like episode 3, and then she's back in like 5 and 6, or like 6 and 7. Chio's School Road is tiring. There's so much screaming, and like, my character is a pervert, so there's a lot of heavy breathing and like weird noises, and she is constantly just like super high energy. So especially last week's episode where she realizes that she likes girls and she basically goes Super Saiyan. I did a lot of screaming and yelling, and she's like jumping and running, and I came out of the booth like actually physically exhausted. I was like, I think I need to go take a nap, because even though you're not actually doing anything, you're not really running or moving or jumping, you're breathing as if you are, and it tricks your body. Your body thinks you're tired. So I actually went to I drove from Funimation to Sound Cadence, which is the other studio I work at, and I walked in, and Emily Fajardo, who plays Manana in Chio's School Road, was there, and she was like, you look exhausted. And I'm like, yeah, I just recorded Chio's School Road.
All right. Another question I'd like to ask you. What was it like working on the script for Armed Girls Monkeyvidism?
Yeah, Armed Girls. So that was the first show I ever wrote all by myself. I've written like one episode here, one episode there for a couple other things, but Armed Girls, they gave me the entire show, and front to back I got to write it. And it was a lot of fun. I'm actually really super fond of that show. I know some people are like, oh, it's fan service or it's harem or whatever, but I'm really fond of it, and I think it has a lot to do with Nomura. As I was watching the show in order to write it, I was like, God, I love Nomura. He's so great. He's like just the right amount of cool, but also a little bit dumb, but also he's got a heart of gold. It was great. But yeah, Armed Girls had a lot of jokes and things that didn't translate, so I really got to have a lot of fun with the script, because I personally like to keep my script pretty close to what's going on in the Japanese. I think it's really important that what is actually being said in the Japanese is communicated, and that you don't change the tone of the show too much. But there were some jokes that just did not make any sense when you translated them. They weren't funny anymore. So I was like, okay, we gotta just change these parts so that the jokes work. So like, there's a scene where Satori and Nomura fight in the bathhouse. And Nomura walks in, and Satori's completely naked. And she's like, well, if I'm naked, you won't be able to focus on the fight, so I'm gonna win. And he's like, oh no, she's right. And then halfway through the fight, he's like, this isn't working, I'm too distracted, this isn't gonna work, I know. And he gets naked. And he's like, now you'll be too distracted to fight. And she's like, oh no, he's right. And it ends up, they kind of tie, but like, Nomura doesn't get defeated is the point. So he was right. And at the end, he ends up needing to be taken to the infirmary. So they're both in the infirmary, and they're dressing on opposite sides of this, like, curtain, and Nomura says something like, hey, sorry about what happened back there, you know, the fight. And Satori says, what? I can't hear you. I think my eardrum got blown out. And I was like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. What could she possibly be talking about? So I did some research, and it turns out the word that she was using for eardrum in Japanese actually just means membrane. So obviously in the context of her putting her hand up to her ear and going, what? You'd think eardrum, but it can also mean the hymen. So it's a sex joke, you know. And I was like, oh, I get it. That doesn't translate at all. So I think what I had Satori say was like, what? I think I can't hear you. Must be all that action you showed me in the bath. Because then it's still kind of like, it implies something, but it works with the animation where she's acting like she can't hear him. It was super duper weird. But there was a lot of that in that show. There was a lot of like, wow, that joke really doesn't translate. What are we going to do? And on top of that, there's a character in that show who speaks a lot of French. So I got to whip out the old French, and I speak, like, very minimal French. And so I was, like, doing a lot of research to make sure my French was good, because the Japanese French was not very good. It was wrong a lot of the time, like Google Translate kind of wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is what she's trying to say, and if we were going to say it properly, it would be this. But then I have to think about, will the voice actress be able to say this? Because I didn't know if they were going to get a bilingual voice actress or one that was like me, who had, like, a little bit of knowledge. So that was a whole struggle unto itself. And, of course, there's another character that throws around Italian randomly. So Armed Girls was an event, especially for my very first show. But I'm glad that it was my first show, because it really put me through the ringer. And so now I think I'm a way better writer than I was before I did it. And I'm really proud of the way it turned out.
Awesome. Another show, and this is from Kickstarter, was like working on Aria, the animation.
Aria! So I'm still in the middle of working on Aria, because it's several seasons long, and we just wrapped up season 2 a couple months ago. And the interesting thing about Aria is that I have to fly there. I have to fly to New York to record Aria. And so my family's there, I fly there, and I stay with them. And then I'll go record Aria in a marathon sprint, because I'm only there for so many days. So the first time I went there, it took us about 3 days to do the entirety of season 1.
Ooh.
And that was pretty good, but then when I flew back, season 2 is twice as long as season 1, and we still only had 3 days. So I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And the director was like, you know Alicia pretty well, and you know the show pretty well, because I've watched it. And he was like, let's just go. So he would just play the English version of the episode for me, so I could hear everyone else talking. And then when Alicia popped up, I would say my line, and if it fit, we just kept going. So it was really a marathon sprint, and that was super unique for me. I've never dubbed anime that way. But I love playing Alicia. She's such a strange, different voice for me. Because I have sort of a deeper voice, I always voice, like, moms and, like, sexy business women or, like, military ladies. But, you know, Alicia has this, you know, oh my, like, she's so light and cute. And I get to play, like, you know, all the different incarnations of her. So, absolutely, that one's really special, too.
Alright. And here's another one that just got announced this week, as you know, as we record. What's it like working on The Boy is a Professional Wizard?
Oh, yay! Yeah, This Boy is a Professional Wizard is a show that I cast and directed at Sound Cadence Studios. It is a half-hour boys' love anime. I'm in love with that show. It is so, so, so sweet. It is, it's about a guy who is a wizard, obviously, based on the title. But the show is really about anxiety and self-worth. It's by Sobi Yamamoto is the director, and she makes all of these really great shorts about usually anxiety and self-worth. And in this particular one, the main character has a lot of anxiety about the fact that he puts all of his self-worth on the fact that he is a wizard. And he's sort of the mind of, like, if he's not constantly working and he's not able to do his job, which is, magic, then he's not worth anything. And I think that that's something a lot of people can relate to, that feeling of, like, I have one thing that I'm good at, and if I'm not doing that thing, then who would really care about me? And then he meets this guy named Toyohi who just likes him for him, and they have, like, a really nice little romance. Like, obviously there's some drama because it's a show, like, something has to happen, but the two of them are really nice in that it's not a toxic relationship. It doesn't have any of, like, that weird tropiness that some boys love shows can have. It's just a nice romance story told in a nice little half-hour package. It's currently available on Amazon and iTunes for just like $3, so you can watch the half-hour thing without spending a ridiculous amount of money on a Blu-ray or whatever. And for that one, I ended up casting Howard Wang and Alejandro Saab as the two leads, and it worked out great because both of them really related to their characters. Howard played Kashima the wizard, and Toyohi was played by Alejandro. And we actually did a behind-the-scenes commentary that is hopefully going to be coming out on the Blu-ray. And they both were talking about how they really related to their characters and how emotional the show is. So, like, I think that they delivered awesome, awesome performances, and I'm really, really proud of the way the dub came out.
That's big stuff coming out. Alright, now we have a funny question we'd like to ask you. If you can be any character you have played in real life, who will you be, and you can mix and match?
I can mix and match. I think, okay, I would want the powers of Thor, because I voiced Thor in Marvel Avengers Academy. Jane Foster Thor. I voiced Jane Foster Thor, and I would totally want to have her powers, because, I mean, who wouldn't want to be able, to wield Mjolnir and have thunder powers? That would be awesome. And then, would I want to mix anything in? I'm allowed to mix things in. Maybe the looks of... which of my characters would I want the looks of? I'm looking at, like, a big screen of, like, all of my characters, and I'm like, if I could pick one of you and look like you, who would I pick? Because a lot of them have such ridiculous hairstyles I would never want. Maybe Celestine Baudelaire from How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. She's really pretty. She's got this, like, lavender hair, and she's got a great bod. Just, a lot of these characters are, like, teenaged, and I would never want to go back to being teenage, so they're off the table. So maybe the looks of Celestine with the powers of Thor. That would be pretty awesome.
No, that would be awesome to see. Alright, so is there anything else coming out that you can talk about, or anything else you want to plug in at this time?
I was gonna like talk about This Boy is a Professional Wizard, but you beat me to it. I totally wanted to be like, everyone should check out This Boy is a Professional Wizard and buy it on Amazon and iTunes, and because I love it so much, and my boys. But you totally beat me to that. Is there anything else coming out? Gosh, I mean, this season you can hear me obviously in Shio's School Road as Monica, and the show I just mentioned, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, as Celestine Baudelaire, and Discotheque is going to be releasing Hells, which was dubbed at Sound Cadence Studios.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be coming out soon. And you can hear me as Wolfie in that. And she's like this super cute werewolf chick, and I love it. So yeah, that.
Awesome. All right, and last question, and we always ask this to everyone: any Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any other social media out there for the fans who contact you?
Sure. My Facebook is just /Marissa Lenti, I believe. And if you just look up Marissa Lenti, I come up on Facebook right away. I've got a fan page. It's like Marissa Lenti, voice actress and director. My Twitter is @LentiSoup, or again, you can just look up my full name. And my Instagram is LentiSoupVO, because somebody took Lenti Soup, and I'm mad about it. But yeah, those are my socials. Definitely get in touch with me, and let's chat.
All right, then. Well, thank you for your time doing the interview with us. We guys really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in another episode of the Ohio Guys here. Thank you all. We see you all next time. I'm Christian.
And I'm Marissa.
And we all see you next time. Bye, everyone.